Welcome into the Sharp Sports YouTube podcast. My name is Andrew Sharp. We'll be talking everything Denver sports and beyond. Please like and subscribe if you are a sports fan like me. Let's do this.
Welcome into the Sharp Sports YouTube podcast. My name is Andrew Sharp. Well, Seattle Seahawks defeat the New England Patriots in a game that was really, quite frankly, a blowout. Final score is not indicative of the Seattle dominance that took place as the Seattle Seahawks win 29-13 in Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. Second Super Bowl for the Seahawks. Certainly a unexpected victory for them, really, truly. This year for them to go all the way and win the entire thing. Not the most exciting game, but certainly a lot to take away from the game, and we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Despite some of the hemming and hawing about if the Broncos had made the Super Bowl, I believe I said on this podcast last week after the Broncos lost to the Patriots in the AFC title game, but it bears repeating. I watched one game and then watched the other, and it was, granted, the weather had a little bit to do with it, but really, it was watching two different levels of competition between the Rams and Seahawks after watching the Broncos and Patriots. So the result yesterday in Santa Clara does not really surprise me at all. I do not buy into the fact that the Broncos would have fared any better against this ferocious Seattle pass rushing defense. Yes, Bo Nix might have been able to do a few more things in terms of his mobility. Running, he's definitely a bit more mobile than Drake May. But the bottom line is the Seattle pass rush is absolutely, undeniably the best in the league. And you saw it on Sunday. You saw the difference between the Broncos, who have a top 5 defense, and the Seattle Seahawks, who have really the best defense in the NFL and arguably a historic defense. Drake May, for all that he had a pretty good year in the regular season, has not had a good postseason, including this playoff run and his final game this season in the Super Bowl. Certainly was not good enough to win, but you're asking a lot of a second-year player going against a defensive mastermind who is the Seattle Seahawks coach, Mike Macdonald. And the Seattle Seahawks, again, are just built very similar. It really is a reminiscent of Super Bowl 48, which the Broncos played against the Legion of Boom. Peyton Manning had the ball go over his head on the first snap, and the game effectively was over at halftime. Completely different players this time, completely different coaches, but it proves that even with all the offensive sophistication that exists in the NFL and all of the amazing offensive minds, including here in Denver with Sean Payton, if you can get after the quarterback, if you can absolutely wreck an offensive line, you will win a Super Bowl. You can go really far with elite pass rushing and elite defense. Can really just destroy an offense. The Broncos certainly were benefiters of that in Super Bowl 50 10 years ago, with Von Miller absolutely just wrecking the entire left side and right side of the Carolina Panthers. And the Broncos essentially rode that defensive performance to a Super Bowl win. There have been other instances. I mean, honestly, last year, the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely destroying what was a really injured and not very good offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs last year for the Eagles. And even 5 years ago with Tom Brady, who was playing with the Buccaneers, and the Chiefs had offensive line issues in which the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush, which honestly was pretty good, but not nearly as good as the Broncos or the Seahawks, absolutely just wrecked the game for Patrick Mahomes. So if you can't protect in the Super Bowl against a team with an elite defense, the game, unfortunately for the viewing audience and for the team with the bad offensive line, the game usually is over pretty quick before you can even really get things started. Way back in my NFL preview pod, I did have the Seattle Seahawks winning the NFC West and having a very good year. However, I did not see them as a Super Bowl contender, much less a Super Bowl champion. But kudos to them. They took advantage of the teams that were in front of them. They certainly earned their stripes playing in the best division in football. with the Rams and 49ers both making the postseason. The Rams being arguably one of the best 5 seeds to ever play in the playoffs, despite them not winning or going to the Super Bowl. But really, this team is built around defense and the run game. Sam Darnold did just enough. He did not make the disastrous play. He did not have the disastrous strip sack, fumble, or interception to put the team in peril. He did enough to win, and there's value in that because plenty of guys try to be the hero on every single play of every single drive instead of letting the other parts of the team around them help them carry the load. And certainly, if you have one of the absolute top tier superstar quarterbacks, you can do that. But most teams don't have that guy. There's argument whether there's 4 or 5 guys in the league. I would argue there's more like 3. It really is Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and at times Lamar Jackson. That's about it. So the rest of the time, you got to really win with the rest of your guys around you, including a guy like Kenneth Walker at Michigan State. Certainly, I'm familiar with him as Kenneth Walker played extremely well against Michigan's absolutely rugged defense that they had during their championship years a couple years ago. And he certainly tore up Michigan's defense, which was pretty rare for Michigan at that time to really have anybody run the way that he did against them. So I've known about Kenneth Walker before he was with Seattle. Certainly a great player, great running back. But really, the other part of this Seattle piece of this that really ties into the Broncos, believe it or not, is the Russell Wilson trade. And this is the fallout of having a quarterback who's not even on the roster and giving up the kind of draft capital that the Broncos gave up. At the time, I was a fan of it. I didn't understand just how badly Russell Wilson had declined. But you're seeing exactly what happened with the Seattle roster as a result of Denver's sacrifice of first-round picks to Seattle for Russell Wilson. In 2022, their first-round selection with the Broncos pick, they selected tackle Charles Croft, 9th overall. Certainly a good player, certainly helps their run game. 2023, though, is where it really came to roost with Devin Witherspoon, who is really immediately became one of the best cornerbacks in the league and put his fingerprints all over this game. Other players in the NFL draft with the picks, later round picks that the Seahawks obtained from Russell Wilson trade, defensive end Boye Mafe, outside linebacker Derek Hall, defensive end Tyreek Smith, and wide receiver Derek Young. Now, some of those guys are lower roster guys, but your top, I'd say 3 or 4 players had an immediate impact on this game. And so, especially when you're building a roster, there are players to be had at every level of every round. And John Snyder of Seattle certainly is arguably the best GM of the league, knows where to find talent. And now you see that talent come to fruition in a Super Bowl championship for the Seattle Seahawks. And tying the Super Bowl back into the Denver Broncos a little bit, the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots before the season started was an extremely unlikely matchup. I think it was like plus 1,600. It might have been more than that. I mean, it was we're talking basically the betting odds of this happening this year were less than 1%. And I bring that up because in both cases, the Seattle Seahawks were no longer content with the mediocre play of Geno Smith. And they went out and took a gamble on, quite frankly, a quarterback that I was never a fan of, but it paid off in Sam Darnold. So kudos to them for never being satisfied, constantly changing the roster, and looking for areas of improvement at every level, at every position. Same thing goes for the New England Patriots, who were the biggest spenders in free agency with this team last year. And people thought that they had reached on some players and maybe this team wasn't quite ready. And all of a sudden, they basically find themselves not just in a rebuild, but in a rebuild to the Super Bowl. And the Patriots still had a fantastic year. There are tons of teams in the AFC that would have killed to be in their position. It was a bad game. It was a bad performance. But their season overall, clearly they're in the right direction. I mean, this is a team that won 4 games the previous season. People forget that very quickly. And I bring that into the Broncos because these rosters, these moves are all continuous. You never have the same team year to year. You never have the same team year to year. And the teams that go out and and I'm not saying that you have to go completely bananas spending money, as the Broncos certainly have, with the Walton Penner Group. But you need to be aggressive with the Broncos roster. The Broncos roster by no means is a finished product. Certainly not on the offensive side. There's massive spots for improvement in both drafting, free agency, development, all of it. So as long as, and I think the Broncos actually really are on the right track. I think they realized that, quite frankly, they found out where they were at in these playoff games. But that's okay. Again, Broncos had the third youngest roster in the league again this year, and made it within one game of the Super Bowl, and honestly, really won half of the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. So the Broncos are on the right path. But they have two examples in front of them who played in the Super Bowl of it is a year-to-year league, it is a year-to-year proposition, and there is always room for improvement. So I'll be looking to see what the Broncos do because we are now in full off-season mode for the NFL. And hard to believe, but the NFL draft will be in about 2 months. So I'll be definitely checking out, looking to see who the Broncos might select in this year's draft, and then free agency after that with hopefully a whole bunch of news as to what the Broncos are looking to do to improve their roster. Anyways, my name is Andrew Sharp, Fresh Sports YouTube Podcast. Just wanted to touch on the Super Bowl and give a little bow to the 2025-26 season. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.